All right, so thank you very much for joining me today on this blab for the redpillinvestor.com podcast. If you'd like, feel free to go ahead and visit my podcast at theredpillinvestor.com. My name's Carl Krenzel. I do that podcast under a pseudonym called John Ashley. And what that's all about is just to go ahead and teach you the skills you need to go ahead and become a wholesaling investor full-time on your own without having to spend a ton of money to go ahead and generate some leads. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then I've got a couple ideas to go ahead and get started. Feel free to go ahead and follow along. Follow me on Twitter at Carl K. Realtor for live Periscope interviews, live appointments, because I actually take my phone on the appointment. I take you in there with me so you can see live on Periscope an appointment as it goes down. I've got over 480 episodes of podcasts that are available for you all at the redpillinvestor.com. So I'd highly encourage you to go ahead and check that out. So let's go ahead and get started today. I wrote down first, we have to just define what wholesaling really is. Understand that wholesaling is nothing more than just putting a home under contract and then assigning your interest in that contract or selling that interest in that contract to somebody else. That's all that is. It's nothing more. It's nothing less. It's not buying a house and then flipping it. Okay? When you start saying the word flipping it, many times people start thinking that you start taking possession and ownership. And when you start taking possession and ownership, and then that's fine too if you actually do that. But many times the way we describe wholesaling is what kills you when you're talking to an investing realtor or a realtor or a loan officer or a lawyer or a title officer. Usually it's your description of what wholesaling really is that kills you. So when they say, oh, well, that's not legal, most of the time it's because you've decided to go ahead and describe it in such a way that makes it sound illegal. So the best way to do that is to understand right from the outset that wholesaling is nothing more than putting something under contract, a house in this particular circumstance, and then selling the interest of that contract to somebody else prior to you actually closing, or you physically close and then sell that property to somebody else in what's called a double close. So I'll explain more about that in a minute. So let's first start off with or point number one, if you will, the reason why this is the best way to go ahead and begin real estate investing is because there's no credit required. When you think about it, most people have to start out in their real estate investing career by putting 20% down or 30% down or even more money if they're trying to go ahead and rehab a property or fix and flip it. And that can be really problematic if you don't have a lot of money. If you've got no credit, for example, let's say you've got an awful credit, you've lost a house or something like that. That's a great way to start, because when you have no credit, because you're simply purchasing an interest in a home, that's all you're doing is buying the interest, then that doesn't really usually require a credit check. Most folks, they don't, ask for your credit when you're putting something under contract. Most folks don't. They'll ask for a proof of funds, but they don't usually ask for a credit check. And the proof of this is I actually purchased and flipped a fourplex. I wholesaled it out the day after I short saled my own home. So when you think about it, I had short saled my own home, and yet I was able to go ahead and purchase a fourplex and then flip it with no credit. So point number one, the biggest reason why wholesaling is a great way to start out in a real estate investing career is because no matter if you're a realtor or non-realtor, no credit is required for wholesaling. Point number two, the second reason why wholesaling is a great and easy way to get started in investing. The second reason, there's very little cash needed. Very little cash needed. When you think about it, the only cash you really need is for earnest money. And since the earnest money is negotiated primarily between the seller and the buyer, that can be whatever you guys agree to. So when you think about it, you could go ahead and physically put something under contract with $1 down or $10 down or $100 down or whatever it is that you got in your wallet. So it doesn't really require much to go ahead and secure something and get an interest in a contract. What many people think is they think they can go ahead and spend inordinate amounts of money on marketing, and then that's going to make the difference. Well, I can assure you from personal experience and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars spent that that is absolutely untrue. If you want to find more homes, if you want to get more homes with motivated sellers, stop buying into this belief that you're going to find them by paying exorbitant amounts of money. I know a lot of people who go out and do probate leads. I know a lot of people who go out and do notice of defaults, for sale by owners, and Craigslist ads and leads and things of that nature to generate leads and business for themselves very easily. So point number 3, there's no license required. There's no license required. See, what's really required if you're trying to sell real estate, all right, then yes, you need a license if you're trying to sell real estate on behalf of another person. Okay, that's acting as a fiduciary responsibility for someone. So if you're trying to act as a fiduciary responsibility person for somebody else, then yes, you need to have a license. But when you think about it, if you're acting on your own behalf, okay, you do not need to be a realtor to buy property on your own. And then let's say you buy something and prior to closing, you decide to sell that interest to somebody else. That's perfectly legal. There's nothing wrong with it. It's legal in all the states. It's just a matter of how you do it on your contract. The fourth thing, you can do more than once. You can do more than one. You can do more than one wholesale deal a month. You know, a lot of people think that finding wholesale deals is extremely hard to do. You know, a lot of people think that, oh gosh, you know, how are you ever going to find somebody who's going to be willing to let their home go at such a low price? Well, here's the reason why. People, unfortunately, they get sick, they die, they divorce, they get married, they buy a bigger house, you know, they have houses they don't need anymore. And for one reason or another, they don't always want to use a realtor. And when they don't want to use a realtor, they often are just forced to sell it by owner. And if they're going to sell it by owner, many times they're going to sell it to an investor or somebody like you at a discount just to get their hands rid of it. They just let it go. So you can do more than one. And you might ask yourself, well, gosh, if there's no credit required, like point number 1 said, and there's no little cash needed, like point number 2 said, and there's no license required, well, how am I going to do more than one if I don't have any cash and I don't have any credit and how am I going to do more than one deal a month? Well, the good news is I know people who do 6 to 7 deals per month and more, and one of them is actually here. As the AZ Emergency Home Sales right there is Michael Opolsky, and I'm proud to report that he's one of these kind of guys who did 6 transactions last year in Texas alone just like this. He's not licensed. He did them for free, and the good news is he did them all working by the phone. You know, that's good news for him, and it's good news for people like you and I because we can replicate those same results, and here's exactly how you do that. You know, when you think about it, if you don't need, let's say you don't want to keep the property, you want to sell it, and let's say you can't assign it for some reason. Let's say that the state you're in doesn't allow assignments, like Ohio or maybe the Northern California, as I understand, the Northern California board, the realtor contract says that you can't assign it or something like that. Let's pretend that you're in a situation where you cannot assign this property. You can always do what's called a double closing. And the double closing, in this particular circumstance, you'd use what's called transactional funding. Now, here's a nice way to think about transactional funding. Let's all pretend that your wife went out this evening and she got a Powerball ticket, okay? And unbeknownst to you, you know, the numbers came out and you won. You know, you won like, I don't know, $2-3 million bucks. Okay, and then you spend $1 million bucks in taxes, and then you spend $1 million bucks, you know, taking care of your family and your kids and all the trips and everything you'd ever wanted to do. You paid off all your bills, and now you got $1 million tax-free left over. What would you do with it? You know, if you're in real estate, if you're in this particular blab, odds are that you're one of those kind of people who would invest in real estate, which means that you're a believer in real estate. Yeah, the market had its crash, but hey, look, what goes down comes back up. What goes up must come down. It's just the way life works, and you are a believer in real estate. So the question is, what would you do with that $1 million? The answer, you would invest in real estate. You'd buy duplexes and homes and triplexes and all kinds of things. So the question then becomes, well, what stops you from actually doing that today? It's this belief that you have no money. You think you're broke. And believe you me, if I looked at your wallet and it looked like mine sometimes, trust me, I've been there. I know what it's like to be broke. Okay, believe me, I know. But here's the thing. Transactional funding steps in. Transactional funding, think of it like your rich uncle. It's a bank. Okay, there's banks or private lenders who will do this for you. And when you think about it, what they'll do is they will provide private, these banks in particular. Coastal Funding was one of them. You can just look up transactional funding on Google and you can find 1 million of them. And when you think about it, they'll provide up to $1 million in cash for a property that you can flip. Okay, and here's what you do. You get the A to B contract between you and the seller. And then you get it sold between you and, say, the end use buyer for a specific amount more. And what will happen then is they will go ahead and give you the money in between time. They'll inject, let's say the way I did the fourplex, for example, my purchase price was $115. So my A to B contract price was $115. My sales price was $125. Okay. So what the transactional funding did is they came in, they provided the $115 for me to purchase the property. I turned around and then sold it simultaneously to this guy for $125. And then the $125 came in, the difference, the $10,000, $3,000 of it went back to the transactional funder. And I got to keep the $7,000. That's how transactional funding works. It's expensive. There's no doubt about it. But when you think about it, that's just the price of money if you're going to do transactional funding. So go ahead and figure those into your costs when you're making your original offer. So you can do more than one deal per month. So finally, point number 5, how easy is it to do? Well, that's a good question. Real estate itself is simple, but not easy. I'm about to give you 5 tips to help you go ahead and make more transactions happen in a regular occasion to where you can go ahead and free yourself from your real estate job. If you're a realtor working for other people, if you're out there schlepping homes around all the time and you're tired of that, and you want to work for yourself and start investing on your own, then I'm going to give you some 5 tips that's going to help you. If you're a person out there who's considering joining wholesaling and doing wholesaling as your pathway into real estate freedom because you see real estate investing as your way to survive, well, then these 5 tips will help you as well. So I hope you got a pen and a piece of paper, because after these 5 tips, I'm going to go ahead and open up the seat. We're going to take some calls, and we're going to have you join me live if you'd like with your real estate questions and your real estate problems. And let's go through what kind of challenges you're facing, whether it be in marketing or rather it be in lead follow-up or negotiations or whatever your kind of struggle might be. I have a couple minutes. I'll be happy to share them with you on this Labor Day. So let's go ahead and get your pen out. Share it on tell a little bird right there. Let your friends know, because we're going to go ahead and share these 5 tips to help you create a sustainable wholesaling business for yourself. These are the 5 tips that I give to my investing clients, to anybody who pays me any kind of money. I tell them the same thing. This is exactly the steps you need to take. So point number 1, lead generate by any means necessary. You have to lead generate by any means necessary. When you think about it, if you're not generating a lead, you're out of business. Oh, we try to talk all these great games, but the reality is if you're not face-to-face with somebody and you're not talking to an actual live prospect, you're going to be dead in the water very, very quickly. So therefore, the first thing you have to do to get successful in real estate after 19 years, this is what I've learned, you must lead generate by any means necessary. Point number 2. The second thing you have to do, if you want to survive in the real estate game, particularly as a wholesaler, because this market, let's just be honest, is getting more competitive. As the market goes up, you're going to have more people want to talk, more people. They're going to want to talk to more people. They're going to want to, think about things more. You're going to have to see them more often. These are just the way, that's just the way it's going to be. You're going to have more competition. So therefore, point number 2 becomes incredibly important. Point number 2, the second point to success, lead follow-up. It's where 70% of your business comes from. Lead follow-up. It's where 70% of your business comes from. Think about it. Most of the time, people are not going to just say, oh, yeah, let's just go ahead and do the deal. Yeah, sure, no problem. Most of the time, it's going to require you to go back a second and third time. It's going to require you to call them a couple times. It's going to require you to follow up with them over a period of weeks or months. It's going to just take time. This is not sales is a process. It's not an event. Understand that. The third thing that you need to understand, if you want to make real estate successful for yourself, you need to learn how to present powerfully. Present powerfully. I don't know how else to do it for people, but other than to take you live into an appointment. That's why it's so critical that you follow me at Carl K. Realtor on Twitter, because on Periscope, many times I will take the camera into a live appointment with me, and you can see the physical homeowner, the house, the actual situation. You hear what they actually say. You see what I'm saying and the comps that I'm presenting and all the things. How to present powerfully is a critical tool, a critical skill that you have to learn if you're going to do this professionally. You have to learn how to present. In my opinion, I would use what I call the pawn shop presentation. You can get free scripts at my website, theredpillinvestor.com. There's the Red Pill Investor Scripts version 5.0. It's a free complimentary script book, and you can get that for free. Just download that today. And it has all the scripts you need for presenting to a homeowner in that particular circumstance. So you have to learn how to present powerfully. Point number 4, you have to learn how to handle objections. If you want to be powerful as a wholesaler, you have to learn how to handle objections, because understand, they're not going to necessarily say yes the first time, but you never want to quit trying while a yes is still possible. It's a unique line we have to walk. When you think about it, this requires a lot of finesse and a lot of skill. And understand that an objection is not the same, okay? Is not the same. Handling an objection is different than, let's say, a condition. A condition might be, well, we can't sell our home because of XYZ situation. We can't sell it because we owe way too much. We can't sell it because I broke my hip and I'm going to be in the hospital for the next 6 months. I'm going to be laid up. We can't sell it because of, when they've got a condition like that, there's no sense in pounding them over the head and trying to get them to go ahead and sign your contract. So understand there is a difference between a condition and an objection. And an objection is simply a question in the mind of the prospect that you need to overcome. It's that question that's like, well, gosh, I got a friend in the business. I got a realtor friend. Do you think I should talk to them? Maybe I should have my realtor review the contract. Maybe I should have my attorney review the contract. What are the comps in the area? When you think about things like that, these are all questions that are in the mind of the prospect. And if you can learn how to handle these objections powerfully, you're going to increase your chances of getting a signed contract. And that's really what you want, isn't it? You want a signed contract. And when you think about it, here's the big thing. Understand this big deal. The objections never change, right? I mean, the objections that you heard today are probably the same objections I heard 10 years ago, 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago. The objections don't change. Therefore, learn the answers. And of course, point number 5, to be super successful as a wholesaler, to be uber successful as a realtor investor, to be somebody known as the deal getter in your marketplace, close powerfully. Close powerfully. They expect it. Listen, when somebody's in a situation where they have to sell their property very, very quickly, if they have to sell their home because of whatever reason, because of divorce, death, they're moving up, they don't need the house anymore, a fire sale, whatever the reason, if they're contacting you, okay, think about it this way. It's a lot like your kids. If you were going to take your kids down to the kinder care to watch your kids so you could take your wife on a date, you'd want to get the best place possible, right? Well, think about it. That's like a real estate office. If they want to get the best price possible, they'll go to a real estate office. But when they're talking to you, Okay, it's not necessarily because they want the best price possible. They understand that they're not getting the best price from you. You get it? Okay, when they call your sign, understand they know intrinsically that you're going to give them some kind of low offer. All right? But the problem is you're so scared, I don't want to hurt their feelings, that they're not going to necessarily go ahead and accept it, right? So you don't close. Well, close powerfully. They expect it from you. That's what they need. They need somebody strong to stand in the gap and tell them the truth about what it's really going to take to get this home closed. And the question is, will you be the one to do it? So, thank you very much for paying attention. I would encourage you to visit my blog at theredpillinvestor.com. Listen to my podcast at The Red Pill Investor as well. You can also find that at theredpillinvestor.podbean.com. That's the direct feed to the podcast itself, or you can just find it directly at theredpillinvestor.com. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock the seat here. And if you've got a question that deals with real estate that I can help you with, then feel free to go ahead and join in. I'd be happy to go ahead and take your questions there, and feel free to go ahead and tell a little bird and let folks know that what you might have learned. If you've learned something in particular, then by all means, join me here and let's talk about it. Oh my goodness. I see that Michael is here. Michael, if you'd like to join in, you're more than welcome to join in. Let's see who's here. Beth, thank you for joining us. Luke, I appreciate you joining us. Jim, glad to see you. Chris Edmonds, pleasure to meet you. Mark Oosterholt, glad to meet you. Kevin's VIPs or VIPs, glad to meet you. Glad to see everybody joining me today. It's really exciting to have this new technology available for all of us so we can go ahead and help each other in this wholesaling question, because trust me, as a real estate agent and broker, I've seen a lot of shenanigans go down. With 19 years experience, I've seen a lot of REO properties. I've dealt with thousands of properties. I've worked with some of the biggest REO companies you can imagine. So when it comes to things like that, I've got quite a bit of experience. I can certainly help you. If you've got questions about a deal, I can certainly try and give you some advice as best as I can, that what I would do on a certain circumstance. You're more than welcome to. It's not an attorney's advice, of course, but I could certainly give you my personal advice, and I'd be happy to do you a favor there if you'd like. So, well, seeing that nobody's got any questions, I'm going to go ahead and just shut this off for today. But I do appreciate everybody joining me on this this blab. I would encourage you to go ahead and visit me at Twitter at Carl K. Realtor. Follow me on my Periscopes, where I do actual live training, actual live deals. And if you want to see the world's first wholesaling deal live done on Periscope, then feel free to visit my blog at theredpillinvestor.com. You can see 100% free from start to finish a wholesale deal exactly as it went down, all the things that happened, how I priced it, how I put it under contract. You see the seller actually signing the contract, me going through the contract with her. You find out what happens when they decide that they don't want to close at the last minute. What do you do? Well, you'll learn on this 2-hour video. It's just all the recording put together, so you have 100% content, nothing, no fluff, no sales stuff. It's just there to help you. If you'd like to learn more about content marketing and inbound marketing and outbound marketing, particularly as it relates to being an investing realtor and learning how to put it all together as a wholesaling business, then I would highly encourage you to check out the Prospecting Academy video series at theredpillinvestor.com as well. I would highly recommend you check that out. It's a 8-week course that I designed for my one-on-one executive clients, and it teaches you the insides and the outsides of everything there is to know about inbound marketing as it relates to real estate investing, and of course content marketing, and then of course the actual phone work. You'll get live calls, live actual deals, and you see it as it goes down. So if you ever had a question about wholesaling on a more advanced level, I would certainly recommend you check that out as well. So thank you very much for your attendance. I appreciate it. And as always, you have a powerful